Time now for our rants and raves, starting with you, Dan.
I have a rave for the Committee to Protect Journalists, which put out an extraordinary statement this week, essentially saying that a Donald Trump presidency would represent an enormous threat to freedom of the press, citing his attack on the disabled reporter, banning certain news outlets from his rallies, threatening to tighten up on libel laws. The way they ended it was, this is recognizing that a Trump presidency represents a threat to press freedom unknown in modern times. Now, I must say, I give them a rave. Let's just not forget, though, about President Obama's unhinged pursuit of whistleblowers and leakers during his administration, and I don't really think there's any reason to think that things are going to be all that warm and cuddly if Hillary Clinton becomes president either. But nevertheless, kudos to the CPJ.
Yeah, there won't be an all-out assault like there will be with
No.
Trump. All right, Dan.
I have a rant for the way that the press covered the Tom Brady story this week. First of all, I have to say I'm not a big sports fan. I don't have a poster of Tom Brady hanging in my bedroom. But, you know, I just thought it just went way over the top. It's the end of his press conference where he's being asked questions about sports, and someone throws out a Trump question about, you know, he has kids, and what would you tell your kids about the locker room talk? He was courteous. He said, "Thank you very much," and he walks out. Yeah. And this thing gets blown up as if he weighed in, you know, and said that he loves Trump and agrees with everything he said. And I thought it was way over the line. You know, it was a no-win situation for Tom Brady.
You must have been listening to sports radio, because I thought everybody gave him a pass on that.
Oh, no, they didn't. I mean, Forbes magazine had .com had something on there. He whiffed on answering, and then they point out how, you know, he could have said something to, you know, when it was directed at his kids, essentially, and say this is not the kind of thing that we do in the locker room. So I was surprised. No, it went beyond just sports radio. I think someone yesterday was ticking through all the different publications who covered this story. And in this case, I think, you know, the press was wrong.
Right. Callie?
Well, don't grab your heart, but this I'm doing a sports rave. Yeah.
Call Ripley.
Yeah, I know. So I was just pleased to see that Jamel Hill and Michael Smith are getting a bigger platform on Sports Center on ESPN. ESPN makes up Sports Center is a big deal, and now they're really shaping the shows all the way through the day around personalities. These two started a podcast called His and Hers. It moved to ESPN2, and now they've signed multi-year deals, and they're going up to the big place to do their own show and bring their personality. And this story about Tom Brady, no doubt, would be one that they would discuss. Both of them are just great and good journalists, and I'm just pleased for them. And as you know, I could care anything about sports, but I love Jamel Hill. I think she's fabulous.
So you'll be tuning in. So you're the reason they did it. They need to get more eyeballs like you in there, Callie.
Yeah.
You know? All right, who we got left? John.
Well, one of the cardinal sins of journalism that we sometimes talk about here is the rush to publish. That overrides certain reasonable considerations. And I think, unfortunately, we saw that this past week in the Boston Globe, which gave featured play to an article about State Auditor Suzanne Bump and how she was now in charge of a couple of businesses that had been created by her late husband, Paul McDevitt. And the story said that questions are being raised about the sort of ethics of this arrangement and whether or not that would mean she wouldn't run for auditor again. And if she didn't run, would the speaker want to become auditor, and what that would mean? The usual thorough, smart job by Frank Phillips, the great State House reporter. But for some reason, the story also mentioned Bump's staff says she'll have a statement the day after the story ran. It says this in the original story. Lo and behold, the statement comes out. The businesses will be run by a longtime employee. She will be removed from it. She is staying on as auditor. There was no story.
I had the same reaction.
For no real good reason, they basically humiliated a grieving widow.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should do that.
Yeah, they questioned her integrity, whether she was going to keep her hand in this pie and then be the...
And if they had waited one more day, the story, it still could have been an item, but it would have been much different.
All right.